Congressman Jared Polis is with us. He so ably represents the 2nd District of Colorado and is a member of the House Progressive Caucus. Polis, Polis.house.gov is his website. His campaign site, polisforcongress.com. And Congressman Polis, welcome to the program.
Hi, Tom. It's a pleasure to be on. And, we really appreciate when you mention a campaign site like that. That's always welcome. It's not always done, so thank you.
Pleased to help. I'm never quite sure when it's, within the window of you can do this and you can't, all that kind of stuff. But I figured, we're not in a campaign right now, so I figured it was safe.
Sadly, it's always a campaign, but
yeah, well, that's a whole other conversation. Is doing something about this bizarre Supreme Court theory that property, money, is the same thing as speech. But speaking of the public will, I guess, which is a subset of that, the public will in Colorado was to decriminalize pot. Washington State too, even for recreational use. And I've been saying for years on this program that if the Democratic Party would adopt something, there's a couple of policies that are my favorites, and I won't go through them all with you because we may have areas of disagreement, but this or agreement, who knows? But in any case, this one in particular, decriminalizing, at least for medical use, at the very least, on a national basis, decriminalizing marijuana or regulating it like alcohol. They would, we've got this, 15, 16, 20% of Americans roughly who identify themselves as libertarians. I've always said libertarians are just Republicans who want to smoke dope and get laid. And I think you'd take their thunder away, and I think the Democratic Party would never again lose an election. And your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree. I certainly have many libertarian-minded constituents who support me because of that stance, and you're absolutely right. It just doesn't make sense to have this massive criminal enforcement apparatus around something that by all objective measurements is roughly as harmful as alcohol. So, it should be regulated, in my opinion, and also in the opinion of the voters of Colorado, a lot like alcohol is regulated. It just makes sense increasingly to the population as a whole, but certainly as a voting issue to many people who are more libertarian-minded.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, I would argue that it's probably less destructive than alcohol. We have 50,000 Americans who die from alcohol-related alcohol overdose, alcohol toxicity, cirrhosis.
Well, and that's very true. I represent the district that is University of Colorado Boulder, Colorado State University. Tragically, almost every year, there is a death or multiple deaths from alcohol poisoning. It is the saddest thing. We're talking about 18-year-old, 19-year-olds. I do not remember a single death from marijuana poisoning. I don't even know if that exists.
It has never happened in the history of the United States.
And yet every year, 1, 2, 5 kids die from alcohol poisoning.
Yeah, and that's just in your area.
Just our area. Yeah, at 2 colleges, yeah.
Yeah, nationwide, it's happening roughly daily. And so this is pretty straightforward stuff. And it's surprising when you look at the numbers how many Republicans are agreeing with this, and maybe it's the libertarian wing. But what are your thoughts on how this could be taken to the Democratic Party, or if it could? I realize that there are some very, very powerful forces that fund both parties. The alcohol lobby, the tobacco lobby, who seem interested in keeping pot off the market. On the other hand, given how many alcohol and Tylenol together, for example, is the main cause of liver transplants in the United States, which are incredibly expensive. If you want to talk just about raw healthcare costs,
I think, frankly, the Democrats have evolved tremendously on this issue. There were always some Republicans, whether it's in Congress, people like Ron Paul or libertarian-minded Republicans supported it, but it has become on the Democratic side, certainly in the state of Colorado, but I think other states nationally as well, the mainstream position. As an example, marijuana legalization is in our state Democratic Party platform. Right. Almost all of the members of our state assembly who are Democrats support it. So, it is real. And here in the House of Representatives, it's also become the accepted or the general position that most Democrats have. Of course, you can find a handful that oppose it, but the majority of Democrats here support allowing.
So what's it going to take to get it written into the party platform for the 2014 elections? Because I think this would energize a lot of young people, frankly.
It should, and frankly, we'll need a presidential candidate that's open to it.
So that would put it in 2016.
President Obama has evolved on this issue. He ran on keeping it illegal, but he's been open to allowing Colorado and Washington to continue on our path. But, frankly, I think we need to go further. We need to make it clear that there should not be a federal ban. That doesn't mean it's going to be legal everywhere, Tom. I mean, plenty of states, and even in a state, we have counties in Colorado and cities that won't have it legal. That's fine. There's dry counties that don't allow alcohol in Texas and Tennessee and other states. There's no problem in the world with that, but it's a matter for local control, not for the federal government to dictate.
Right. So really, this is kind of a reverse Jeffersonian, not even a reverse. This is a Jeffersonian argument.
Well, I think Thomas Jefferson grew hemp.
Yeah, as a matter of fact. Well, actually, we know George Washington did, definitely, because that was in his diary. But the argument that, the local control is the best and that the federal government should only get involved when when it's really important stuff that has to do with the commons. And,
It's very true. I mean, why would the federal government in Washington, why would politicians be telling you, what you smoke? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean there shouldn't be some degree of, regulation to keep it out of the hands of kids, all those things that, of course, we do with alcohol. But it should be an approach consistent with the way we deal with alcohol, not the way you deal with heroin or cocaine, which are totally different things.
Yeah, I agree. You can grow this stuff in your backyard. I mean, we're talking about a weed here. This is kind of crazy.
And Coloradans are already allowed to grow up to 5 plants for their own use in their own home, and have been for close to a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's extraordinary. That's
It's been a boom for gardening stores and grow lamps and all those things. Oh my gosh, they've been springing up everywhere, Tom.
It helps the economy. And if you started taxing it, I mean, I remember years ago we took our kids to not so many years ago, and all of our kids were over 21 at the time.